who has worked tirelessly to expose injustice in the legal system. She is the founder and executive director of the Ella Foundation and is a member of the organization Journey of Hope. She has performed countless volunteer hours for the San Antonio Police Department Family Assistance Crisis Team and the Bexar County Family Justice Center. And please welcome, join me in welcoming Charity Lee.
I can't wing it as well as they do. I get emotional and lose my place easily. But before I start, first, I need to say how honored I am to finally be here with Suja and Randy, all in the same place. Suja and I have spoken together before. Randy and I have traveled all over the world together, but we've never had the chance to all three really speak in the same place. We almost had the chance in Delaware, but you had to go. Yeah. So it's an honor to be up here. I've only known them for less than a year, but in the time that I have traveled and worked and gotten to know them and listened to their stories, I mean, when Suja got sent to prison, I was 1 month old. He's been fighting this battle this whole time. I'm 38 now. That's how long he's been fighting this battle. So it's a huge honor for me to call them friends, and they have become the family that I have lost. I wish Bill was here. Shout out to Bill, even though he's not here. He likes to hang out with us too. So, I'm Charity, and if I cry, you're just gonna have to forgive me. It's been 5 years for one crime and 32 years for another crime, but I still cry every single day, especially when I give my speeches. So, I want to start with a quote. Words probably wiser than my own are about to prove to be. It may be when we no longer know what to do, and we have come to our real work, and that when we no longer know which way to go, that we have begun our real journey. Wendell Berry. On March 11th of 1980, I was 6 years old. My father, James Robert Bennett Jr., was found shot 4 times in the head, chest, and back at close range with a .38 caliber pistol early one morning in my home. His accused killer was arrested, incarcerated, charged, tried, then acquitted. Had she not been found innocent by a supposed jury of her peers, the death penalty could have been imposed. I knew the woman, my father's supposed killer, and I loved her very, very much because she was my mother. On February 4th, 2007, my 4-year-old daughter, Ella Lee, was sexually assaulted, beaten, choked, and then stabbed 17 times late one night in my home. About 30 minutes or so after her death, and after deciding not to kill me too, her killer called 911 to turn himself in before I got home from work. I know the boy, my daughter's confessed killer. His name is Paris, and he is my son. The depth of my love for him should soon be obvious. If Paris had committed his crime 2 years earlier, in 2005 rather than 2007, and had he not been a juvenile, and by juvenile I mean the age of 14 in Texas, had he not been a juvenile, he too could have faced the death penalty for what he did to his sister. It's capital murder. Instead, he is now serving a 40-year jail sentence, which is the equivalent, when you're 13 years old, of a death sentence. If he serves his full 40 years, he will be 53 years old when he gets out of prison, and he will have been there since he was barely 13. I did not come here to dwell or expand upon the violence part of what has happened to all of us. And it's permeated and poisoned my life. I did not come here to bore you with statistics. I hate statistics. Or to regale you with stories of misery, pain, and loss. I came here to testify that a life composed of murder, loss, and unspeakable grief has taught me everything that I need to know about the unassailable power of unconditional love. I stand here to speak as the daughter of a murdered father, the mother of a murderer, and the mother of a murdered child. I stand here, a human and a spiritual being whose entire existence, even before the day I was born, because my father was being investigated for his role in 2 murders when he was murdered. So even before the day I was born, my entire existence has been shaped and defined by murder, violence, and loss. I stand here to tell you, though, after being forced to look violence in the face time after time again, I continue to believe in and live with love as my guide, in spite of the violence that horror will always show you. I stand here to tell you what I have learned and continue to learn, believe it or not, from my father, my son, and my daughter about the nature and expression of unconditional love. And lastly, I stand here with hope. Hope that my pain and my losses will save some of you the experience of them or of having to endure anything like what I live with on a daily basis. I stand here to tell you that you can learn to cope with violence and to transform senseless violence into something meaningful and beautiful. And to tell you to act in your world with empathy and love, not anger and violence. I have survived a lifetime of murder. I have another lifetime of murder to survive. I live and I work on both sides of the crime scene tape. I have close friends on death row in Texas. I have friends whose brothers, sons, nephews, grandsons, grandchildren, you name it. And yes, I'm sticking to guys because it's usually men who get the death penalty, although there are women on death row, who have people on death row. I have friends who, just like me, have lost a mother, a sister, a son, grandmother, entire families who've been murdered, and they daily have to live with the grief and the loss. In my work with the San Antonio Police Department, I encounter violence and death repeatedly in 10-hour shifts. I've seen a man jump to his death 40 yards away from where I stand, helpless to stop him. He had a wife and 3 beautiful children. He was 28 years old. I had to look his father in the eyes and say to him, "Your son is dead." Knowing what that was going to do to him, because I had heard that 4 years before about my daughter. I've held a man with multiple stab wounds in his neck on a San Antonio city sidewalk. Told him that all would be okay, while I silently prayed he did not bleed out before the EMTs arrived. All the time, thinking of Ella dying in my bed. I have never seen murder, whether it be perpetuated by an individual or a government, bring anything but pain into the world. There is no such thing as closure. It's a myth. Closure does not exist. Not for victims, not for their families, not for the offenders who commit the acts unless they have absolutely no conscience whatsoever. For society, for anybody, murder lasts forever. I will never forget what happened to my daughter. Never. Pain does not disappear when another act of murder has been carried out. Pain never disappears, but with unconditional love, it can become bearable. A lifetime spent suffering and examining the ramifications of murder have taught me some stark truths. The first truth that murder has taught me: love can conquer all. It really can. I have seen it at work in my life and in the lives of countless others I counsel and support in their darkest moments. I'm sure you've heard it before, but I'm going to say it again, because truth with a capital T deserves to be shouted from the rooftops as often as possible. Love begets love. Hate begets hate. Love is the only force powerful enough to conquer hate. Underneath all your logic, all your education, everything, you have to have the capacity to love. Unconditionally. Whether you're educated or not, you can do that. You claim you want to live in a world free of violence and hatred. Stop being hateful. Stop being hateful. It's hard, but it's possible. Set aside your ego, your pride, your anger, your insults, your righteous indignation that you have been wronged and deserve revenge, and your judgment. Until you've walked a mile in these people's shoes, you don't know why they've done what they've done. And until it happens to you, you don't know why the people who are victims react the way that they do. Set aside your judgments. Instead, learn to flex your empathy muscles. Each and every one of you, every single one of you, whether you believe it or not right now at this time in your life, is a force of nature, full of untapped power, full of it. Your words are power. Your words are powerful. Believe that and use your words wisely. Use your power for good on behalf of justice, to create and to give love. Each and every one, how many up there are in here? Okay. Each and every one of you, most of you, at least one of you, will suffer a violent event at least once in your life. There's a very high probability that one of you will probably die because of one. With the way that murders happen in America right now, there's a good possibility that one of you will die violently. Love for yourself and love for another is the only way to prevent this and to heal from this. The second truth that murder has taught me: I have absolutely nothing to hide, and I have absolutely nothing to be ashamed of. Violence is so prevalent and so accepted in our culture that what happened to my loved ones, my son, my family, can and may happen to any one of you in spite of your best efforts. We are all an eye blink away from trauma. After my father was murdered, then again after Paris killed Ella, my friends, my family, my neighbors, the community, they all put as much distance as they could between themselves and me. As a child, I was shunned and taunted by my classmates, by children who listened to and believed their parents and the media when they said my mother was a murderess. Children who every single time they would get mad at me for something stupid, like kids do, would bring up, your mom murdered your dad. Your mom murdered your dad. Like it was my crime or my fault. As an adult, I can't even begin to tell you the hell I've gone through because of what my son did to his sister. I'm verbally attacked by people on a somewhat regular basis, by people I've never met nor seen in my life. People who assume that I must be evil because they believe that my son is, or people who assume I must be at best a closet criminal, or the one that really gets me, a terrible mother, because of what Paris chose to do. Exactly 1 week before Ella's murder, I was at the breakfast table with both of my kids, and I opened the local newspaper, and I read the story of a little 4-year-old girl named Janie De La Paz, who had been killed the night before in a drive-by shooting. The first thought that entered my mind was, how horrible. The second, thank God that will never happen to us. I never once thought to reach out to her parents, never thought to reach out to her family, never even once crossed my mind to become an activist and start doing something to make my community safer. My overriding thought was, how lucky I am. My children, the only thing I need to care about from my kids, they're happy and whole. We'll never suffer that kind of tragedy. We're different. We're white. We're rich. We're educated. That's not going to happen to us. Not that kind of stuff. Because I used to be guilty of the same offense, I understand now why we distance ourselves from those from tragedy and shun those who experience it. Fear. That's it. Plain and simple fear. No one wants to believe that the horror that befell their family can happen to theirs. My family can happen to theirs. No one wants to believe that their Ella, their Janie, or their father can be murdered. And definitely no one wants to believe that their Paris, their mother, their loved one can be a murderer. I am living proof that you should all believe it possible. Do not distance yourself from those in need, and do not shun those who have been traumatized by violence. This only causes more pain, and ignoring the problem will not make it stop at your doorstep. The third thing that murder has taught me, and I kind of knew this before, but brought it all out better, is that life is to be lived very, very boldly. Do not be too timid and squeamish about your actions. All life is an experiment. Really love to take credit for that, but that was Ralph Waldo Emerson. I know, I had to recite him. I believe after surviving the worst nightmare that a child and a mother can have, after surviving a life bookended by murder, that I have been called to be a healer of hearts and souls. Sucha's political, Randy's political, I'm a healer. Living life as the daughter of a murdered father, mother of a murderer, mother of a murder victim, mother or daughter of a possible murderer, has only served to increase the amount of love and compassion I feel for each person I encounter. Every moment I have experienced thus far has led me to one unassailable belief. I survived this nightmare to show all of you, and myself at times, that we're meaningful to life, no matter what. Who we are, what we've done, how we feel, how we cope, we're meaningful. When times get rough, and I've got this mantra memorized by now, but when times get rough, I have a mantra that I chant to focus my energies on what I know is important. Love, sacrifice, service. One more time. This is what's important in life. This is my commencement speech early to you guys. Love, sacrifice, service. These three truths define my ethical code, paint my worldview, and guide all of my exchanges with others. They transcend all boundaries: age, color, class, religion, sexual preference, doesn't matter. love, service, sacrifice. Apply them to everybody. We all, every single person has a story that deserves to be told. And we all have different ways of telling it. And we all deserve to be heard. We all have moments that we are unable to see the essential role that we play in life. Whether we are blinded by choice or chance makes absolutely no difference in your experience of being blind. At some point in life, if you've not had it yet, each and every one of you will need a mustard seed of faith planted by your positive experience of another to keep growing, to keep doing your best. Stop worrying about what everyone may think of you. Who cares? Who cares? Stop worrying. Stop worrying about the label on your shirt. Who cares? The car you drive. Who cares? Really? Or the size of your house. Again, who cares? Be happy you got one. Stop worrying about keeping up with your neighbors. They're probably just as crazy as you are. Who cares? Focus the energy that you waste on fear and worry on love, on empathy, and compassion instead. Imagine the world that we could create if we would do this, or if more of us could do this. And the last truth that murder has taught me is this. I survived. I'm convinced. The only reason I have survived, because it has not been easy to survive this life, is to accomplish 4 tasks, and I will accomplish each of these tasks before I'm dead, whenever that may be. I survived to share my love and my family's story with anyone who needs it and is willing to listen. I survived to offer my time and my heart to all victims of violence I meet. And let me define a term here. When I say victims, I include offenders in that term. 98% of people in prison started out as victims. They became offenders. Treat the victim, hopefully you'll get rid of the offender. So when I say victim of violence, I mean the entire criminal justice system. Not just those of us who have lost people. I survived to rattle the bars of the criminal justice system a bit. And this is the fun part of my job, where you really get to irritate people. By advocating for justice and humane treatment rather than punishment for those who do us harm. And finally, when 1 through 3 are accomplished and life sees fit to let me go, I will have survived hell to finally hold my daughter again. Because I'm here to tell you that 4 years of holding Ella was not nearly enough. On April 12, 2011, what would have been Ella's 9th birthday, I decided to create the Ella Foundation, a 501c3 based in San Antonio, Texas. Our mission is to prevent violence and to advocate for human rights through the use of education, criminal justice reform, and victim advocacy. We are a nonprofit organization that caters to offenders and victims. I do not discriminate. I live on both sides. I created the Ella Foundation for one reason, self-evident. It can do more good and spread more love than one woman alone. My goal and mission in life is for the Ella Foundation to one day have the means to open community violence prevention and healing centers named Ella's Place. So all the little kids in the neighborhood can say, hey, I'm going to Ella's Place after school. In actively crime-ridden communities, which will offer support and education to victims of violence crime. Again, no matter which side of the crime scene tape they have to cross to find us to begin to heal. My son murdered his sister 3 months after his 13th birthday. Stop and think for a minute what you were doing 3 months after your 13th birthday. For his birthday, I sat down and composed a list that summed up the 13 things that loving him had taught me so far. 3 years later, my baby turned 16 in the custody of the Texas Youth Commission. I could not bake him a cake. I couldn't throw him a party. I couldn't teach him to drive. I couldn't take him to get his driver's license. And I could not sit and marvel over what an amazing and impressive young man my son was growing to be. So, I sat down, added 3 more to his list, and I mailed it to him. I'd like to share with you what my son taught me about love, with the hope that you will hear and take to heart what it seems he did not. Here we go. To my beloved son, on his 13th birthday, here are 13 things that loving you has taught me. 1, live in the here and now. The past cannot be changed, and the future is yours for the creating. 2, live without limits, but set boundaries. 3, love boldly, yet carefully. 4, be mindful of others' dreams and aspirations. Offer support and encouragement often. 5, know your limits. Trust your instincts, and never be afraid to draw a line in the sand. 6, follow your yellow brick road. It always knows where you need to be. 7, stop and listen to the silence occasionally to remind yourself that life is not always as it seems. 8, trust until given a reason not to. Help until you are being taken advantage of. 9, hold no regrets. Life is too short, and you are the sum of all of your experiences, both good and bad. 10, never be afraid to admit your mistakes or apologize for them. You will be a better man than most because of it. 11, try not to let the actions of a few change your opinion of all. 12, good manners will take you farther than any amount of money or talent. That used to be the case. Now if you're super rich, you can do anything. 13, when all else fails, remind yourself that this is your life, and you must live it the way you feel is best. To my beloved Paris, on your 16th birthday, it has been such a long, hard trip to get here. Believe it or not, I would not change any of it. What is. You still teach me so much about love. So here are 3 more for your list. 1, always let love be your guide and light at the end of your tunnel. 2, as long as you are breathing, you can survive anything. Even if you quit, you survive everything anyway. And 3, and this is the one I hope you apply to the people in your life. No matter who you are, no matter what you have done, and no matter what you may do, I always have and I always will love you to the stars and back. My name is Charity, and my name means love. My daughter's name is Ella. And now stands for empathy, love, lessons, and action in the face of extreme adversity. I believe in the power of charity, not me, love. I believe in the power of Ella, both Ella and Ella. And I believe if we do our best to live with love and empathy, to share the lessons that we learn, and to act with love when needed, we can and we will stop all of this killing that kills us all of us. From the bottom of my heart and the Journey of Hope and the Ella Foundation, thank you for hearing me out.